up on Salisbury. I'm sorry. Hi, Internet. It's Thorn. I haven't posted in a few months because I have been completely absorbed by doctoral exams. Those are happening next month. I am sort of perpetually teetering on the brink of anxiety. Normal doctor school anxiety, right? I've got all kinds of support. It's designed to be terrible. It's designed to make one feel this way. So mission accomplished. That's great. Thanks. But I wanted to go ahead and just like be on the internet and post a video to sort of like maybe even remind myself that I'm still here. I imagine many of you feel the same way. I am having a moment where I'm having to reevaluate my life on the internet, what I want to do with social media. And it's controversial and it's painful and it's ridiculous and it is really frustrating for all kinds of reasons, both as somebody who is a content creator, also somebody who relies on social media for book marketing, but also just like as a consumer too. Right? Like I'm getting the same barrage of ads that everybody else is. I'm dealing with like the AI slop the way everybody else is. And just somebody who wants to participate in wider communities, whether that's witchcraft and magical and pagan communities or academic communities or fandom communities or whatever. I feel like a lot of things are just like slipping away all at once. And I don't know what the solution to that is, but I wanted to say hello. And instead of ranting at you about all of those things that I imagine you are probably dealing with as well, I would instead share a bunch of things that I'm pumped about for the coming year. What if I did that? So probably the biggest thing that I'm excited about is I'm like I said, I'm really anxious about doctoral exams, but I'm partway through my program. I have a dissertation subject. I have research plans. I've been through the IRB, right? Like I've checked all of the bureaucratic boxes and I'm ready to go. I'm really stoked about it. And I'm really excited to spend more time in scholarly spaces. As you all know, if you've watched me for any length of time or you followed my blogs or me on TikTok or whatever, you know that my objective has never been to be a professor. My objective is not like traditional kind of tenure track, career mode, whatever, for all kinds of reasons. But that's, buy me a drink sometime. I'll tell you all about it. But that was never the objective. The objective has very loosely been, it's really fun and I don't want to spend my life being miserable. So I'm going to pursue this thing I love to do because I have the opportunity to pursue it. That was item number one. Item number two is I wanted to become a better writer and I wanted to write for different audiences. I wanted to write for broader audiences. I wanted to write for, different sorts of communities and be engaged in different kinds of conversations that just are not happening in witchcraft spaces. And they cannot happen in witchcraft spaces for a few reasons, partially because the academy structures itself in such a way that it's actually designed to be exclusive. It's designed to kind of keep people out, right? But also, I think that witchcraft communities, by and large, just aren't engaged in the same kinds of conversations. Like, I don't know. I mean, you can see the stuff that's popular on social media, right? Like, that's not the stuff that I'm necessarily churning out. Those aren't the conversations I want to have. So, like, I'm just not going to pretend anymore. Anyway, how this has manifested for me has been, I use the word in the conventional sense, is that I am starting to branch out and you're seeing me in other places. I did a collaboration with Religion for Breakfast. When was that? October. I'm in conversation with those folks continually, partially because, I have scholarly friends too, which is really exciting. I'm in conversation with other folks on YouTube who are kind of more in the academic sphere of things. I had my first official scholarly publication outside of book reviews Also, I think in October, from Equinox, there's a series called Religion in 5 Minutes, and the idea is that it's a bunch of frequently asked questions about assorted religious topics, and they're all answered in short form essays by scholars. A volume came out in the fall called Pagan Religions in 5 Minutes, and I have 3 essays in there, talking about the differences between Wicca and other forms of witchcraft, talking about social media and witchcraft, talking about whether or not all witches are pagans, right? All of those kinds of frequently asked questions, but answered from a scholarly perspective. So those are the circles that I've been moving in, and I want to spend more time there. And the objective to me, like I said, I'm not planning on working in the academy. The objective is bringing those conversations to general audiences, writing for general audiences. My intention is not to become an exclusively scholarly writer. It's to take some of those conversations and bring them out into the open where other sorts of people can engage with them. So that's very exciting. I'm hopeful that I'll be able to tell you a whole lot more about those projects in the coming months. The other thing that I'm stoked about is actually starting that dissertation research. Some of you know I've pointed at this a little bit over the last couple of years. My subject of interest, my scholarly hyperfixation, is really broadly the concept of secularism and kind of like the muddy spaces around religion and science and the secular and the spiritual, right? Like here on the internet, we use those words like they have objective meanings, right? And they really just don't. We have to look at them within particular contexts, considering who's using them, that sort of thing. And particularly in the United States, but really everywhere, right? Particularly in the United States, because I have to limit my scope somehow, we just are really good at taking stuff that has really deep religious history and doing stuff with it and in other realms and then calling it secularism, right? So and I'm not saying definitively that like things fit into categories. My problem is with the categories, right? The problem with binary thinking is that it's actually fucking everywhere, not just in gender, right? But I'm interested in those movements and ideas and peoples and groups that occupy middle grounds, right? Witchcraft is a great example of a movement that occupies a kind of middle ground. I could very easily have asked comparable research questions and done a dissertation project in witchcraft communities, but I didn't want to do that because I've watched people write about their own communities and see how it goes poorly a lot of the time. I didn't want to write about my own people. I mean, ethnography is a really intimate process, and it's intimate already without me having to interview like my own people. You know what I mean? And I always have that body of knowledge, right? Like this is my home community. My positionality is as a witch, no matter what I'm writing about. And so I'm going to be bringing that in anyway, because that's where I live. And that's the particular set of lenses that I have. But originally the project was going to be to look at a collection of these various kinds of in-between movements, potentially including witchcraft. But over the last year, it's really coalesced into thinking about the concept of the paranormal, particularly in the United States, again, but more broadly too. So I'm going to be spending the next several years with paranormal communities, and it's been it's been really fucking great so far. It's been really great meeting a whole different like communities of people, getting to do something really cool and really interesting and something that really isn't in my wheelhouse. That's really exciting. I think people have this idea that like witchcraft and the paranormal just naturally overlap, and that really isn't the case, right? It certainly happens, it's out there, right? But like that's not the objective. For a lot of paranormal investigators and paranormal enthusiasts, right? It's certainly not for parapsychologists. But anyway, I am getting to go to like paranormal conventions and events. I've been on investigations. I've been taking courses in parapsychology. I've been interviewing people in these communities. And I get to, once I get through exams, I get to focus on that. And my goal, and I think the goal of good ethnography anyway is compassion, right? And collaboration. So I'm just pumped that I get to take all of my brain and devote it to this subject that's really, really cool and really interesting to me. And I think, even though there's a lot of people in my life who are just like, I'm sorry, are you doing a PhD in ghost hunting? Like, no, bestie, right? Like, I'm using this is a case study of this wider phenomena that you think doesn't affect you, but it does. I could just as easily have done this project on chiropractic, right? Or the self-help movement, or manifestation, or witchcraft, right? Like all of these blurry things that we struggle to put. The reason we have to fight on the internet about whether witchcraft is a religion or a practice is because it's not a binary. It's because the answer is neither and both and all simultaneously, right? And that's true broadly, right? Like witches aren't special in that conversation. So those are the kinds of questions that I'm asking. Those are the things that I'm looking at. And it's really exciting to like be in the field, meeting new, really interesting people, making new friends, right? Like, I cannot impress upon you like how, after years of working in like retail and corporate and food service and teaching, right? Like public school teaching, I cannot tell you how gratifying it is in my 40s to be fully engaged intellectually with something new, right? Like, you know how they tell you that like crossword puzzles keep your brain young or something, right? Like this is like that, except on like all kinds of speed. It's great. I feel alive again. But it means I get to travel. Like I said, I'm doing fun things. Right? I have like an EMF meter / motion detector embedded in a stuffed cat. Like it's hilarious. Anyway, I'm very happy in my academic life right now. And I'm looking forward to writing about that and bringing some of those adventures like out into general spaces, obviously with the full consent and signed forms of everybody who I'm interacting with in these communities. A third thing that I'm pumped about is having the emotional space, especially like stepping away from social media, stepping away from like a lot of the hustle of like internet witchcraft author life, and taking that back and putting it into my immediate magical communities. Like I've been operating a coven this whole time, but taking all of that energy and actually putting it back into the magical communities that got me here to begin with, right? You know, it's a weird process becoming an author for all kinds of reasons. And I can't speak to other sorts of authors, but from being like a witchcraft author and a cult author, the weird thing is that in those spaces, we tend to treat authorhood as though it's like a sign of mastery. Like if you've been here long enough and you know enough things, eventually you'll write a book. Like there's just kind of this tacit assumption that we have. Oh, when are you going to write a book? Oh, well, when, like... and that's the mark of like some kind of weird, really boring form of adepthood. And it's such a lie. It's such a lie. Like I love books. I love other authors. I love being an author. I'm going to keep writing books. I'm not saying I'm not. But I want to collectively stop treating it like it's a sign of anything other than potentially being a decent enough writer and good enough on social media to be marketable. Like that's what it means to produce a book, right? It means that you've cultivated an audience, or a publisher believes you have the capacity to cultivate an audience, right? It doesn't mean that you're like a magical adept. So I want to take that energy and actually put it back in to my magical practice. I've gotten to spend the last year really focusing on various aspects of my personal practice, expanding that, bringing back things that kind of fell by the wayside as my energy went elsewhere. I'm really excited to like be with my immediate people. And I want that for all of us. Like I want all of us to have that kind of access, right? And I realize that not everybody does. So like these kinds of virtual spaces are really, really important. This is its own kind of community, and that's totally valid. But not putting so much stock in, you know, platforms and followers and sales, and it's just, like none of it, like, God, we're all just gonna die in the end anyway, you know what I mean? Like I came here because I wanted to be a witch and I wanted to do witchcraft, and like that really needs to be at the fore of that. And I think books and writing and ideas and art and all of that stuff has to come out of those impulses first. And we have to stop treating like book publication or like YouTube channel creation or whatever like it's some kind of end goal and sign of something that it just isn't. I still don't really know how to play this song, but the other thing I'm pumped about is getting back to my damn hobbies this year. Like, it's funny going to like pagan festivals or meeting people on social media platforms like as Thorn Mooney, you know what I mean? And somebody will say something like, oh yeah, like that one time you played guitar like at Mystic South or blah, 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 blah. And then invariably somebody's like, oh my God, you play guitar, right? Oh my God, you're music. Oh my God, you, oh my God, you do these things. You have these, yeah. Like, bestie, we all have other hobbies and interests. And that's true about all of us. And I think that gets lost too on social media. Like we're all multidimensional people with other interests and other passions and other communities, non-magical communities, right? Like, I don't know, like, why are we so surprised that other people like things, right? So I am committed this year to practicing more guitar, like practicing for real. I actually went to music school, everybody. I dropped out of music school. I was not cut out for music school. But I learned a lot. The muscle memory is all still there somewhere with the trauma. But I love the guitar, and I used to be really invested in songwriting and performing, and then, like, I don't know, jobs happened and I just wasn't. So yeah, I also like watercolor. I like painting. That used to be my favorite thing when I was a kid. Writing fiction, short stories. I have a vision for a horror novel that I want to write. But I want to spend this year doing stuff that is not monetized, that has nothing to do with an author brand, that just is just for me because it's like fun and engaging and nourishing. And yeah, so for me, that's music and that's art. I really have never written fiction consistently before, so that's a stretch goal for me. But yeah, I want to bring back those things that make me feel the most human. So just to wrap things up, I'm going to make an effort to post here with more frequency. I'm not going to transform into like a real YouTuber. You do not expect good camera or makeup or right, like, but this community has been really important to me over the years. And as people shift away from other platforms, I'm hopeful that maybe we can recapture some of the energy that we had in 2010. You know, I don't know how possible that is with all of the restructuring that's happened here in YouTube. But you know, if you're if you watch my videos and you think, damn, she never looks at the camera, it's because I'm not trying. It's because I'm going to stop trying to hide the neurodivergence, right? I've always been this way, guys. Right? Like, she says and like a whole lot. Yeah, it's because I'm a human being who actually practices other things, right? We just used to turn these cameras on and build community, and that's what I want to do. My goal is not to be an educator, right? Or like, I quit the classroom for a reason, you know? I'm not here to sell you like metaphysical packages to be your best you or whatever, right? And like, anyway, I'm gonna let go of this idea that I can somehow like wear enough makeup and talk my way into being like a best-selling author, right? Because what ideas am I even selling to you at that point, right? Anyway, I hope that you're here and that you'll interact with me for real in the comments. If YouTube isn't your jam, I have this fantasy about kind of actually updating my Thorn the Witch website, which I have paid for years to keep it ad-free, right? Posting blogs or whatever. I'm on Blue Sky at Thorn the Witch. I've taken Instagram off of my phone, maybe temporarily. I don't know. I'm not making any commitments, but it's making me real mad right now. So I'm just, you know what? I don't need it. And then of course, everything that's happened with TikTok, I can't see living there anymore. So you do you, I will do me, and we will all do it together. Bye.